All right, for this next part, I need you to skip down to where it says writing equations, circles, and ellipses. And we're going to look at that top flap there that says, or that is all the circles. 11 is by far the easiest. If you are given a graph, you just have to find where is that center. So in this case, it's at 5, 1. And what is the radius? So count from the inside center to one of the outside points. They should all be the same, hence the word center. So you get a radius of 4. So if I plug that into the formula here, so I'll actually write out the whole thing in case you've already forgotten it. So 5 and 1 are going to take the place of H and K. And radius squared. Now to finish off your problem, please do not leave it like this. Every year someone does. Please do not. Remember that 4 squared is actually 16. So that's how we're going to write it. It equals 16. Okay. Number 12 is basically just like it. There's just a little bit more math involved because you do need to square that. So sometimes we get confused what that looks like. So we square each piece. We squared 2 squared. And then we square the square root of 7. So we get 4 here. Square rooting, or squaring a square root just gives us that number. So we get 28 for r squared. So thinking back to the formula here, r squared is 28. My center, remember it's always opposite signs. So minus 9 plus 4. Don't forget opposite signs. Always opposite signs. All right, 13. I gave you a hint there. I kind of drew you a little picture. So our center is not our problem. Our center is fine. So x plus 1 quantity squared plus y minus 7 quantity squared, no big deal. It's what is the radius? We don't know what the radius is. That's what we got to figure out. So we're going to do that using the distance formula, because really what I'm wanting to know is how far away is that outside of the circle from the center. Okay. So I take my x values and subtract and then square, and then I take my y values and subtract and then square. So this is negative 10 squared, which is 100, and this is negative 3 squared, which is 9. So the radius is square root of 109. And you're like, but Miss Ridner, what do I do with that? Doesn't matter. We don't need the decimal. Because remember, when we're doing the equation, this is r squared. So if I square a square root, I am just left with that number. So if this is r, then r squared would be this, which is just 109. Easy enough. All right. And the last one is the diameter. So if you remember, you have a circle. A diameter goes from one end to the other. So directly in the middle of that diameter would be your center. Directly in the middle should ring a bell as to midpoint. So midpoint, what do? You add them together and divide by 2. So you're finding the average of the x values. So negative 4 plus negative 8 over 2. Finding the average of the y values. To get negative 6, negative 5 as your center. Okay. Your radius is going to be just like we found before. So we're going to go from the center that we just found to one of the endpoints. It should not matter which endpoint you pick, because at the end of the day, you should get the same answer. So I could have -4 plus 6 quantity squared plus 7 plus 5 quantity squared, which would equal the square root of 148. Yes, that does simplify, but for the sake of finding the equation, I do not need it. Okay, because last but not least, I'm going to get x plus 6 quantity squared plus y minus, or plus 5 quantity squared equals 148. And that is writing equations. You have one more piece about circles, but in the meantime, you are almost there.